tide turns. October 1797. A battle-torn ship is pulled to port by the tide into Fells Point, Baltimore. Many onlookers stop and look at the carnage the ship seemed to have gone through. One brave man, Jessup Hayes, climbs aboard to find nothing or no one, as if the thing were just abandoned to sail the seas on its own. Hayes, asking himself, how could this ship make such a trip to our harbor without a crew? Reaching for the tow line, yelling, "No one's aboard, help me tow her in." Few men were hesitant at first, but neither the less others did help pull the ship in. Jessup walks about the ship's hull, making notes on how the condition was. No holes, no leaks, and truly minor damage. After locating the captain's quarters, he finds the logbook. Jessup opens to read it. Last date entered July 20th, 1777. The ship has sailed into the uncharted regions of the unknown bliss. None of the compasses are working properly. We did not know east from west, north or south. Even with the sun high above us, it does not sway any. No wind to catch our sails. Days are strangely longer than normal. Even the night sky has its trickery. It looks as if a storm was brewing just ahead, and we may be doomed. Jessup takes the logbook and tells others to check the ship for any other damage. Just then, the dockhead, who was a soldier during the Revolutionary War, noted the British emblem on the side of the ship. He yells out, "Young man, you do realize this ship is 20 years old?" Jessup turns to the old man. "I see that, but how did it get here? Someone would have seen it, but still it made it to our docks." The old man tapping his foot, scratching his head, and looks at the young lad. "I guess you are claiming her as your own?" "Well, I believe so. We could fix her up and put our own name to it." The old man nods in agreement. Jessup started to walk away when a strange bystander was wearing a black tethered coat, a hat smelling of the open sea, and smoking a pipe. He softly says, "She's haunted, you know." Looking at the rough man gave Jessup a cold chill. "What say you?" As he was taking another hit from his pipe, looking at Jessup dead in the eye. "That their ship now belongs to the devil. Let me ask you, were there any souls aboard it?" Jessup looked over the strange man with a nod of no. "Well then, there you have it. Body, soul, and all taken by the sea. Didn't take the ship because it wants more souls to feed on. Name's Ively. Been sailing the seas for the past 50 years, even born on the waters. I've seen some strange happenings in which one could never comprehend." Jessup snaps back to reality. "So you are telling me this is a ghost ship?" "Doubtful at best, if you ask me. It was luck that it comes to our docks." The man pulls a thin wooden strip, holding it to a lantern to light his pipe back up. "You be warned. There's something strange about that boat. Be cautious," as he walks away with a sinister smile. Later that evening, back in Jessup's home, he lights the fireplace and with a bit of kindling lights his candle, then sits back on his decor chair, opening the logbook that he found, as he is flipping back a few months before the last entry he read. January 22nd, 1777. The war has taken a heavy toll on my men. Most are weary and tired of the conflict. Some have lost faith in our country, and some have even taken refuge in townships of America. Started out with 178 men, now only 86 are aboard. Flipping to the date March 19th, 1777. Decidingly, my men want to abandon the crusade against America. South is where our sails will take us to Bermuda for a time. The number of seamen who have deserted the ship still grows. So far, 13 have taken their own lives rather than face the king's wrath. I feel the hangman's noose around my neck even now. May 22nd, 1777. The furlough and 6 weeks have passed, and new members have joined our crew. I do not know their intentions. We are up to 123 men. There was one whom seemed skittish. I will have to keep an eye out on this one. Jessup flips to the page before the last entry, July 17th, 1777. Directed the ship south into calm waters. Seems we are getting closer to mutiny. The men are restless. It is not war on the mind. It is the feeling of reckoning. July 18th, 1777. 3 lifeboats full of men have rowed off during the night. No sign of anyone out on the sea. I pray each finds peace as for the rest of us. We are stuck here on the ship. Just then, a knock at the door. A young boy with a message stating, "Mr. Hayes, your presence is requested at the dock. We have an issue with some workers vanishing," Jessup tells him. "I'll be right there, thank you." This unnerved him since now it was well into the evening and the sun had already gone down. Grabbing his coat and hat, he ran out the door. Jessup ran into the same straggly old man he talked with on the docks earlier that day. The old man asked, "Well, do you believe that the ship that came to the port is haunted yet?" Jessup looked at the old seafarer. His eyes have a glowing red. The feeling around him was unease. Just the persona around this man was enough to frighten even the strongest man. Passing by him without muttering a word, knowing could mean trouble in which Jessup was not looking for. Arriving at the dock, several dozen men with torches were yelling out, "Burn the ship! Evil has come! Burn it, for it's cursed!" Jessup never believed in curses or witches. Man makes his own path. He jumps up on a small soapbox. From the top of his lungs, he yelled out, "What is going on here? It is a ship. There must be a logical reason everybody has gone. Is it possible that many have gone to the pubs to have a few pints? Let us all search this ship in large groups. Whoever or whatever is going on will become known. But not tonight. It is too late. We can do this at the first sign of light." Everyone seemed to agree to this and slowly started to make their way back to whence they came. Knowing he may have to have someone stay watch over the vessel for fear of another mob, a trustworthy dock boy stepped up and was appointed to the job. His youth and stamina made him the best candidate. During the night, noises could be heard coming from the ship. It was not from bumping the docks, but sounded more like someone aboard the vessel walking. Also, voices could be heard on the deck as well. Dim lighting, a very unnatural glow. Curiosity grabbed the young man as he slowly started creeping up to peek inside one of the hawsers. He sees no light, no signs of life, but noticed a shadowy figure standing in the corner close to the captain's quarters. Just then, an old drunk comes walking up behind him. "Hey boy, what are you doing there? You could slip and fall into the water." Startled by this, the young man jumps back. "Nothing, I thought I seen something or someone on the boat." The drunk turns and looks at him and says, "Ghosts are not real nor curses. I will prove it. I am going on that boat." The young dock boy looks at the old man, battle-scarred, looked as if he was in a war himself. "Mister, it's your funeral." The drunken old fool climbed aboard the ship, telling the lad, "See, boy, nothing to fear, it's just a boat." Just then, that very dark shadow the young lad seen earlier moved quickly across the deck before the dock boy could say a word. The old drunk was engulfed and pulled across the deck by the shadow. There was a sharp scream, then nothing was left of the old man. The boy jumped down onto the dock and started running as fast as he could. Who would he tell? What he just entailed? Who would believe him? The next morning, just before sunrise, Jessup is the first on the dock looking over the old ship. Nothing out of the ordinary, as it was still tied to the dock. Suddenly remembers having a young dock boy watching over it, wondering if he climbed aboard. Jessup himself does just that. With a lantern in his hand, he starts to creep up the boarding plank. Looking down on the deck, a candle that was dropped, Jessup turned, looking around, noticing a row of claw marks leading to the steps of the lower deck. Jessup at this time worried about the lad. May he have been taken by an animal that wandered aboard? Stepping closer, making his way to the lower decks, the ship looked so much larger on the inside than before. As he shined his light down a long corridor, noticing a shimmer ahead. Following the glistening in the dark, the walls around him seemed to engulf the illumination of the lantern light that he carried in front of him. It seemed to grow darker and darker, and he sees it, looked like a figure embedded into the wood of the ship itself, holding the lantern closer so he could see what was in front of him. Jessup cried out, "Oh God!" The old man who tried to warn him the night before has been slowly embedded into the ship. Engulfing him through the course of the night, only his fingertips, face and torso were all that could be seen. Jessup, who now feared that the ship was not a ship, but a kind of demon that digests its guests. Now, knowing this, getting off and destroying it would be the best plan. Jessup turns to make his way back to the staircase he came down, only to find they are no longer there. To the left, another set of stairs going even further down the belly of the ship, as if they had always been there. Jessup mumbles to himself, "Maybe the other way will take me up and out." The corridors in the ship seemed to be getting warmer and warmer, like a fire was churning within. Jessup started to get worried that the townspeople caught fire to the ship. The need to get out quickly has now become his main priority. When Jessup reached the other side of the corridor, it looked to be a dead end. In moments, a door appeared. How is this ship so large? How do I get out? Maybe a cannon door would work. Opening the door to find an empty room with a large fire pit in the center of it. With a blink of an eye, what looked like a tall man standing with his back to Jessup. He looked up and muttered softly, with a shaken tone of fear in his voice. "Hello?" A scratchy, rough voice pierced from the man. "Welcome aboard the RMS Formidable." Jessup looks at the back of the man, frozen in fear as if his body were under paralysis. The raspy voice continues, "My men and I had succumbed to the ship's will. I know you have read my logbook. Let me tell you what happened after the last entry I wrote. We sailed into something dark and evil. The sea was dead and calm. The storm that I have mentioned in my log was the devil himself. We were given a choice, either become a part of the vessel or die and be consumed by it." Jessup opens his mouth to speak, but the words would not come out. All he could do is listen. "For the past 20 years, we have sailed the seas with no hope of our souls being freed. This vessel is now a part of us. It has enslaved us for its bidding. I shall instruct you on how to get out. Allow no others aboard. You must burn the demon. Do not hesitate for one moment." What thought to be a man turns to look at Jessup. He was a rotting corpse, a speaking cadaver. Where there should be eyes were darkened sockets, barely a nose and a grin that would forever haunt Jessup's dreams. Jessup utters, still frozen in fear, "How do I find my way off?" The cadaver slowly lifts his arm and points. "The dead cannot enter through that passage. There you will find your way. Remember what you must do." Jessup turns to the archway that was not there a moment ago, then turns back to the haunting figure which has vanished. With feeling back in his legs, Jessup motions his way out through the doorway. As fast as he could, he worked his way up the staircase. In moments, finds himself on the top deck, out of breath as he is stumbling down across the plank and off. A group of dock workers noticed him and rushed to his aid. One man yells over to the young dock boy who had found help. Jessup looks up at the boy, telling him, "It is good to see you're safe, lad. I feared that devil of a ship took you." The boy replies, "No, sir, but the old man stopped me and was taken himself by a shadow with red eyes. I am happy to see you were not taken as well." Jessup smiled at the boy, then he stood to regain his composure. Jessup yells out to everyone, "Find dry wood, kindling, and oil. We are going to send this ship back to hell, where in which it came from." A few of the other people helped, scrounged around, and grabbed oil lamps, drums of whiskey, and dry kindling, impaling the barrels and rolling them onto the deck, dousing kindling with oil and tossing it through any hole that they could find on the ship. Jessup stood with a torch in hand, looking at the vessel. He yells, "Burn in hell, ye devil!" Almost immediately, the ship was engulfed in flames. Meanwhile, the other townfolk joined in as they too started throwing torches as well. The putrid smell of burning, rotting flesh starts to fill the air as people cut the ties from the pilings, allowing the ship to float away from the pier. The crowd gathered and grew larger, and almost looked as if it was a Viking funeral. Jessup looks onward and speaks softly. "Go in peace, Captain.